welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is episode 10, part 2 of Witness Credibility in a question mark, credibility, regarding the Wisconsin versus Zachariah Anderson. And we are taking a look at the witnesses and what they say, how they say it. We're just kind of looking at their credibility and reasons why they might be testifying selfishly. I don't know. But we're going to look through some of the key witnesses. Like I said, we're not going to look at all the witnesses, but we're just looking at some of the key witnesses that were in this case. And we're going to start off with Marquand Washington. Then we're going to watch a little bit of Rebecca Jekyll, who is the best friend of Sadie. We're going to watch her testimony, and then we're going to watch the testimony of the daughter of Zachariah and Sadie. So that one's going to be interesting. I'll tell you that. And then the next episode, episode 11, is going to be all about Sadie. We're going to watch Sadie's particular mannerisms and how she talks and whatnot. We're going to watch that in the next episode. We'll watch all of Sadie's testimony. But for now, let's get started with Marquand Washington. And at first, they're just going to be talking about the charges. He is the cellmate. So he is the cellmate of Zachariah Anderson, or was for maybe a couple weeks. And he's claiming that Zach admitted to him. I believe my boyfriend's home early, and that was my dog's running down the stairs, all excited. All right. So we are going to watch, we're going to watch Marquand Washington, and here we go. Let me turn my thing on. Again, this is the cellmate. He was only a cellmate for about 3 weeks of Zachariah Anderson, and am I back on? Okay, good. Here we go.
And are you in custody right now for charges that are called federal charges?
Yes, sir.
And does that mean the U.S. government is prosecuting you?
Yes, sir.
So it's not the state of Wisconsin that's doing it?
No, sir.
And pursuant to that federal charge, in general, where are you being housed? Are you in a federal jail or prison, or are you in a state institution?
I'm in a state institution in KCDC, but it's mixed with federal as well.
Okay. And so KCDC is a institution or jail here in Kenosha?
Yes, sir.
Judge, could you ask the witness to talk right into the microphone? We can barely hear.
Yeah. You got to speak up. Okay. Can you do that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, counsel. So, as part of your federal prosecution, have you entered into a plea agreement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I first want to talk about what your federal charge is. What do you understand you are charged with right now?
Conspiracy.
Okay. And is that to conspiracy to deliver drugs, illegal drugs?
Yes, sir.
And what are the drugs that you are charged with conspiracy to deliver?
Cocaine and marijuana.
And would it be accurate to say that the cocaine that you are charged with conspiracy to deliver is 30 plus kilos of cocaine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what quantity of marijuana are they saying that you were in a conspiracy to deliver?
I believe 600 pounds.
Okay. And so you've entered a plea in that case. Is it a plea of guilty?
Not guilty yet, but...
Okay. So what is your status right now in that case?
Witness's last word was but.
I thought you said not guilty yet.
Correct.
Oh, I thought
said yet.
you said yeah. You're right. That mic doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay. Should I go on?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
So, and is it your plan to enter a plea on those charges?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have you entered into a plea agreement with the government?
Yes, sir.
And is that a document or agreement you've signed?
Yes, sir.
And does it indicate you are going to plead guilty to some charges?
Yes, sir.
So did you do these offenses that they're charging you with then?
Not the amount, but yes, sir, I have.
Okay. So you're pleading guilty to the charges that we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
All right. Does the plea agreement, what does the plea agreement say about whether, if you know anything about other crimes, whether you should talk about it or testify or any of that? What do you understand your plea agreement to say about that kind of stuff?
The plea agreement basically said that if I was to enter into this plea agreement and sign it, I would have to be honest about anything that I had knowledge about.
Okay, and so you're obligated. You're supposed to be obligated to do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and is there a benefit that you believe you would receive if you provide information on different cases?
If I'm honest about everything, possibly yes.
So what do you understand could be your advantage? So like how could you be helped if you're honest about some other crimes?
What do you mean, like?
Well, like what advantage do you? I mean, what's in it for you? I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, leniency on sentencing, I guess
Okay.
so.
And you know what that means? Like what number that means?
No.
Okay. Has anybody told you what the number is?
No.
And what is your understanding of what happens to you and your agreement if you are dishonest to a court or to authorities? What happens to you if you're dishonest?
I probably wouldn't get anything for it.
Okay. Are they able to hold that against you?
Yes.
So could you be worse off if you lied?
Probably so, yes.
Okay. And could you mess up your whole agreement?
Yes, sir.
So, and have you been worried about that? Have people told you, here's what might happen if you make something up or if you lie?
Yes, sir.
So you feel like you understand what the consequences are if you were to tell lies in a courtroom or to authorities about any matter? You think you understand what happens?
Yes, sir.
So how long have you been in a jail in Kenosha on these federal charges? Like when did you first get to Kenosha for jail on the federal charges?
I believe about 15 months ago.
You remember what month it was or not?
Probably December, I think, of 2021.
Okay. So, and at some point during your time in the Kenosha jail system, did you come to be housed with a person who you found to be named Zachariah Anderson?
Yes, sir.
And what did you call that person? Like when you were speaking to them, what did you call him?
I called him Zach.
Zach. And were you, if you know, did you room with that individual personally? Like you were actually a roommate of that person's?
Yes, sir.
And which institution? So there's a downtown jail and then there's KCDC, right?
Yes, sir.
Have you been in both of them during this period of time of incarceration or just one?
I started off at downtown area for a week or so, and then I went to KCDC.
Okay. So is the place that you roomed with this person that you said his name, Zachariah Anderson, was that downtown or was that out at KCDC?
It was at KCDC.
And when I say that you room with someone at KCDC, tell me what physically that means. Are there 5 or 10 roommates or just, how many people are, when you say you room with somebody, how many people does that mean?
There's 2 people, me and another person, which was Zach.
Okay. So for a period of time, it was just you and Zach?
Correct.
Okay. And is the person you're identifying as Zach, is that person here in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
So could you point that person out today, and Mr. Washington, tell me what that person is wearing today?
Yes, sir.
Please point that person out.
Yes, sir. He was right there in the gray suit with the gray and blue tie.
I'd ask the record to reflect identification of the defendant, Zachariah Anderson.
Pointing at the defendant.
Mr. Washington, did you room with the defendant from a time period from about December 22nd, 2021 through January 31st, 2022? Does that sound correct?
Yeah.
In that video, you could see Zach saying two, so something about they were only rooming for about 2 weeks or something like that. So I think.
Yes, sir.
So if I calculate correctly, that's approximately 5 weeks, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't know if they're saying that he roomed with Zach for 5 weeks, but he only has roomed with him for about two to three or something like that. So maybe he's overstating the amount of time that he was rooming with Zach.
And during that time, did you and the defendant come to know each other?
Yes, sir.
And did you have discussions with the defendant during that period of time?
Yes, sir, we did.
And at some point, did you discuss your case?
Yes, sir, I did.
And at some point, eventually, did the defendant discuss his case?
Yes, sir.
So when you discussed your case, who else was around when you were talking about the details of your case with the defendant?
Just me and Zach.
When the defendant discussed his case, who, if anyone, was around other than you and the defendant?
Just me and Zach.
What, if anything, can you say about during the period of time you were with the defendant, whether you observed any behavior about him having trust issues about people or being paranoid or worried about the government?
He had a lot of paranoia and different trust issues when we was in the cell.
Okay, you got to speak very clearly, okay?
Okay.
So, all right, so what sort of things did you see that caused you to think, okay, this guy is thinking the government is doing stuff?
Oh, when I was in the cell, he would, initially stated that it was a couple times that he thought maybe that the government was putting informants in the cell with him or maybe bugging the cell or recording things without his knowledge.
And did you ever see him do any...
Watch Zach's face throughout the entire testimony of Marquand Washington. There's a couple of spots that I will point out to you beforehand to really look out for some reactions there. But at this point in time, do you believe Marquand? Do you think that he's telling the truth? Do you think that he has something in it for himself as to why he would testify against Zach? Let me know in the comments below what you think.
Searches?
Yes.
And what did he tell you, or what did he indicate to you he was searching for?
You know, he was checking to see if there was any recording devices around or some type of camera or some event, just looking.
And did he ever discover anything?
No.
And what, if anything, can you say about whether the defendant, what his opinion was of his own intelligence, or about an ability to outsmart people?
Well, he thought he was pretty much smarter than everybody, pretty much.
And what sort of thing did you hear that caused you to believe that?
Just the things that he said about, like, eventually when he talked about his case or how he would deny things, but thought that he was going to beat the case, actually, and that you guys were trying to frame him and he was going to get out.
Who did he say was framing him? Do you remember?
Well, if he was innocent, he would think that he would be getting out, and that potentially they were framing him if evidence was, leading to him when he has nothing to do with it. He would be having trust issues with the government if he's innocent and they put him in prison. So I think that really supports Zach's innocence.
Remember?
He said the police framed him.
Did he say how they had framed him, what they had done?
He just said that they was planting evidence and trying to put something on him that he didn't do.
All right, so he indicated to you specifically that the police had planted evidence?
Correct.
Was that said to you once or more than once?
Said a few times.
Okay. And can you indicate any ways that you and he helped each other out? In other words, anything that caused you and him to begin to trust each other for any reason?
Well, when I was in the cell, like I said, we became close. Sometimes, like, if I needed him, he would come through for me, and if he needed me, I would come through for him.
And give me an example of the kind of ways you meet.
Like the first time ever was because he usually don't share or do nothing or order much. He holds on to the stuff that he have. He had some food that I needed to cook with at the time, which was tuna, and I asked him, could I get the tuna, and I would order him, four back for the tuna because he did it before with other people, and some people didn't come through on the end, and I showed him that I come through.
So, Your Honor, Mr. Washington is sort of soft-spoken, and the words come out kind of quickly. Can we just ask the jury, can they understand him so far? I just want to be sure that they're able to understand him.
Sounds like it.
Okay, good. So, Mr. Washington, it sounds like you negotiated a loan kind of thing, right? You pay me now or I'll pay you later kind of a deal.
Sir.
Okay. Was there a point where, in discussing the defendant's case, that he talked about any involvement of his brothers?
Yes. He said he couldn't have contact with his brothers because you guys basically try to say that they had something to do with whatever he had going on with his case, but he didn't.
And did he indicate to you, did his brothers have anything to do with any of this?
He said they didn't.
Okay. So how was he acting about that? Was he sad? Was he very calm about that? What was his reaction to the idea that...
Judge,
hold on, let me finish. That his brothers would be involved?
Judge, objection leading, and he's been doing it repeatedly. I let it go, but definitely leading.
So I've directed him to a topic, and then I've asked what, if anything, was said about that. That's not leading.
And then gave 4 options.
Well,
And if I
no. I think it could be less leading.
Okay, so what, if any, reaction did the defendant have to the issue of his brothers being suggested as being involved in this incident?
Well, he was angry about it. He was mad, actually pissed off. I don't know if I could say that.
Okay. And were you able to find out some personal details about the defendant's background?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so what, if anything, did you come to know about his family in terms of who he got along with, those kind of things?
I found out that he had brothers. He supposedly had a sister or something, or called sister. I don't know if it's a sister or not. Him and his dad wasn't close growing up. He lived with him or something like that, but they didn't have a always good relationship. He told me that they fought one time. He was tough on him and his brothers, stuff like that.
Did he say anything about anyone dying?
He mentioned something about somebody passing away, but I don't remember who it was.
And did he indicate whether that was a problem for him with his own family?
Not that I can recall. I just know that he said he was split up. He wasn't with his mom or his dad. I don't know how he got split up or what was the reason why he was split up.
Did he tell you in terms of sort of everyday jobs, not doing illegal stuff, but as terms of everyday jobs, what sort of professions he had worked in?
Yes, he told me that he was in did cabling and construction work like that.
Okay, the first one was cable man.
Yeah.
Cableman. Okay, and the other was construction.
Correct.
And then, did you have any topics that you felt like the two of you bonded over? You had some things in common.
Yes.
And what was that?
Illegal things.
Okay, so what?
Objection. I think we've revisited this before. I think I have to be heard outside the presence of the jury here.
So they go into arguing for the rest of the afternoon pretty much about this whole thing, about whether he's allowed to bring up information regarding Zach's other potential crimes that he was being litigated for, or sorry, I'm getting the next link for us. If I could find the right link. Here we go. So we're going to come back the next day, and Marquand Washington is on the stand again, and they're able to go into his crimes a little bit, but limited, I think. So here we go.
What, if anything, that the defendant told you about a police search of his house involved in the investigation?
There we go.
What, if anything, did he tell you about a search of his home?
Well, he told me that you guys had raided his house or whatever, and that you had found a nice amount of money and a little bit of weed.
And what did he tell you about? What, if anything, did the defendant tell you about where his house was, and did he describe his house to you in some way?
He told me that he lived in Mequon and that he owned his house. He said it wasn't big as everybody else's house, just a smaller house, but he owned it.
Okay. Was there a time when you were observing the defendant when it appeared to you he was having a nightmare?
Yes.
And what do you remember about that incident?
I remember I was laying there the night before.
Okay, watch this. So when he starts explaining what Zach is yelling in his sleep, apparently, watch Attorney Gravely's mouth as he's saying it, like simultaneously as he's saying it. Watch Attorney Gravely, and watch Zachariah Anderson's reaction to what he's about to say.
I told him about the next day, but I was laying there and I was reading my book and I heard him shout in his sleep before he woke himself up.
And what did he shout that you heard?
He said, "Die, die, die, motherfucker."
And you're quoting as best you remember?
Yes.
All right. And so did you ever have a discussion with the defendant about...
Did you see that? Did you see Zach going, what? And Attorney Gravely mouthing when he said the words? Let's go back and watch it again. Excuse me.
Anything that the defendant told you about a police search of his house involved in the investigation?
Okay.
What, if anything, did he tell you about a search of his home?
Did
he describe his house to you in some way?
But he owned it.
Observing the defendant when it appeared to you he was having a nightmare.
Yes.
And what do you remember about that incident?
I remember I was laying there the night before. I told him about the next day, but I was laying there and I was reading my book and I heard him shout in his sleep before he woke himself up.
And what did he shout that you heard?
He said, "Die, die, die, motherfucker."
And you're quoting as best you remember?
Yes.
All right. And so did you ever have a discussion with the defendant about this nightmare that you heard him have, or these words he said?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And so if you know about how long after that happened, did you bring it up to him?
I brought it up to him the next day.
Okay. And what did you say to him about it?
I pretty much told him, I asked him about the situation about that he was locked up about, and I told him that he was talking in his sleep, or yelling about some stuff in his sleep, and he was like, well, "What did I say?" And I pretty much told him what he said, and he's like, "Yeah, you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you said it." So I asked him a question. I'm like, "Did you do it?" Like, what? You know what I'm saying? I think you did it. And we went from there.
And so what did the defendant respond when you said, "I think you did it based on the nightmare"? What did he say?
I told him to look me in my eyes and tell me that you didn't do it. And he jumped down from the bed and he looked me in my eyes and he said, "I did it." He said, "That's the reason I have the nightmares. I'm unable to sleep at night because I think about it all the time."
Was there a discussion?
You see Zach's face again? Watch his face when he says that.
I have the nightmares. I'm unable to sleep at night because I think about it all the time.
Was there a discussion at some point where the defendant said to you, "Is it that obvious?"
Yes, he did.
And so when did that come up?
Objection leading.
It almost looks like he said, "I don't know what the fuck." I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
The very definition of leading.
Rephrase your question.
When, if ever, did the defendant say to you, "Is it that obvious"?
Objection. Same exact same question.
That's taught in some law schools that's not a leading question. Others, like the one I attended, say it is. So it's not firmly settled, but I do think in the final analysis it tends to suggest an answer, so the objection is sustained.
In the discussion that you had where he looked you in the eye and said he did it, what else did he say, meaning the defendant?
Well, after we had talked and I told him, I basically knew he had did it, because I've been around killers. I know killers, like, pretty much, and he seems like a killer. I pretty much asked him, like, I mean, how did you do it?
Judge, I'm going to object here.
How would he know?
He has no way of knowing who's a killer and who isn't, other than
Exactly.
where he has personal knowledge,
opinion.
such as something he would have observed with his own senses. And then there's people who might make that statement based upon the hearsay that we talk about all the time, and that's not even been stated here. So he's making a judgment just based upon no basis at all, really, in fact, that would ever be considered admissible in a court. So please disregard that entire statement. Any question? Thank you.
So when you asked the defendant, how did he do it? What was said next? What did the defendant tell you?
Well, he spoke indirectly. Starting off, he wasn't pretty much trying to say everything that he did. I felt like he was held back, but he said that, well, you gotta know a person, you gotta learn a person, you gotta be able to know, where they live, how they move when they leave, what they drive. And then he told me, one way of knowing when a person is going to be in a certain area is GPS tracking. And he told me Amazon sells GPS tracking that you can put on people's car.
Did he use a phrase to describe the circumstances of his case?
What do you mean?
Did he? At some point were you aware of a nickname that some people had given the defendant?
Yes.
And at some point, what nickname did you hear people address the defendant with occasionally?
A lot of times people would say Houdini or Zach Houdini, or just telling me about who my cellie was.
And did they? And was this a nickname that you did you understand why this nickname was given to the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Why was it?
Objection.
What's the relevance?
What on earth is the basis?
Because of what the defendant's reaction is to the nickname. So my offer of proof is when the defendant
Wait, no, Judge.
Well, no, he's talking.
No, but I
He's
think
talking.
Okay.
when the defendant was confronted with this nickname, he, according to the witness, there was a reaction that is relevant.
Judge, I think that we had the fact the court instructed us to not go into all of this arguing about evidence in front of the jury.
I think the last question was started with a why, as a word. Why? Pardon me?
When the defendant was confronted with this nickname.
Why don't you start with a new question?
When the defendant was called Houdini by individuals, how did the defendant react?
He never denied it. He just would laugh it off or, just go on about his day.
And did the
He never denied it. He just would laugh it off or, just go on about his day.
And did the defendant talk about why people were calling him Houdini?
Sorry, I was on mute. It looked like he mouthed bullshit after Marquand Washington's answer. So let's watch that again. Sorry.
How did the defendant react?
He never denied it. He just would laugh it off or, just go on about his day.
And did the defendant talk about why people were calling him Houdini and describe, what that was about to you?
Yes, he said they called him Houdini because of his case, basically because he made a body disappear, they say, and everybody called him Houdini because of it.
And what can you say about how he was acting when he described that to you? Was he sad, regretful, just neutral? Was he proud? Describe his reaction as he had that discussion.
I don't think it matters what his reaction is, because if he's in prison and you're trying to look tough and you have to create a name for yourself, at least in the sense that you want to act tough and big in prison so that no one messes with you. So if he embraced the nickname or whatever, I don't see that as an issue, because he has to play a role within his new life in prison, and he's got to maybe fib about what he did, or not necessarily fib, but he's got to maintain a tough, harder exterior so that no one's going to mess with him in prison. So I don't see that as a negative necessarily.
Me, I think he was kind of proud but not really showing it. He kind of smiled it off. I mean, in jail, you when you're around people, you got to have this kind of name for yourself. I don't know. Everybody fighting the same battle in there, so everybody fighting different cases. And he kind of know his case is big, and because of it, everybody know him. So he kind of wear that jacket a little bit. He doesn't admit it to everybody, but he does wear the jacket, in my opinion.
And what, if anything, did the defendant tell you about the circumstances on how he committed the crime? So you've already talked about, he said it took a lot of work, you got to follow the person's patterns, trackers from Amazon, you said all that. So what did he tell you ultimately? Were any of the circumstances he told you about how he did anything?
Yeah, he ultimately pretty much just told me that.
Well, I don't want to hear testimony of he pretty much just told
Okay,
me.
well,
I'm not scolding you. I'm just telling you. You can quote exactly what was said, but we don't want your
Pretty much.
conclusion pretty much told. Okay?
Okay.
And Judge, a witness is not going to be able to exactly quote. We're not computers. So he's going to say, here's what I believe I was told, right?
Well,
I mean,
I understand.
Did you guys see Sadie's faces that she was making regarding this conversation here? Watch her face.
We don't want your
Pretty much.
conclusion pretty much told. Okay?
Okay.
and Judge, a witness is not going to be able to exactly.
Is she in on it with Marquand? Like, what the hell? She's like, yeah, I like Marquand. Yeah. Go for it, dude. Tell us what you think. I don't know. She seems very, like... She seems like she's got this camaraderie with him. I don't know. It's weird. She's smiling and nodding along.
Quote. We're not computers. So he's going to say, here's what I believe I was told, right?
Well, I understand. Your point is legitimate.
Okay, so-
However, that's a flashing warning sign when someone states he pretty much said thus and so. You may be able to access the information you seek with a different question, but we're 9 days into this trial. We don't want to ignore flashing warning signs.
Okay. So what did the defendant tell you about how he committed the case that he's charged with, and what the circumstances were?
He said that he had seen this person, and he said he stabbed him, and he blacked out. He said he stabbed him, and I just blacked out. And he said he eventually wrapped the body up in garbage bags and got rid of the trash. He threw the trash out. Okay. And I asked him, what did he mean by that? And I said, what, like dumpster or trash? And he said, once it's gone, it's gone.
What if anything, did the defendant say about whether after killing this person? Well, all right. So based on what you've said, putting in trash bags, it won't be found. Did you ask him any follow-up questions about things like how he moved the body?
Yes.
Okay. And what did the defendant tell you about how he moved the body of this person?
Well, I asked him, like, I'm like, you did this by yourself, pretty much. Well, you did this by yourself, and he said yes. He said he took him on his own. He didn't have his help with his brothers, because you guys said that his brothers was involved with this. He said he did not have any help. He did it all by himself. And I'm looking at him like, okay, don't look. I don't know if he was telling me the truth or not, because he was not a big guy. But he said, you should have seen me before I came in here. He was like, I was real cut. I was healthy. I was strong. When I first came in here, everybody was calling me Superman. So I'm like, oh.
And did he say, other than his own strength, did he say any other reason why he felt like he'd been able to do it himself?
Other than strength and adrenaline, that's everything he said.
Now, did you ask him, what if anything came up about why he did this? Why would he end this person's life?
He said to get back at his kid's mother.
And what did he tell you any more about that?
Yeah, he said that he was angry with a bunch of different things, but he said she kind of bragged about this other guy and that she was happy. He didn't really want his kids around that.
Other than the details you've described so far, did he provide any other details to you about the offense or any other of the circumstances of this case, other than what you've said so far?
He didn't really speak much. He told me what he told me, but he did say, no case. Nobody, no case. And that was where he left it at, pretty much.
Now, when you were originally debriefed by the government, were you asked about whether you knew of any other crimes?
Yes.
Okay. And that was back in 2022, correct?
Correct.
And did you bring this particular incident that you have told us you heard from the defendant, did you bring that up originally when you talked to authorities?
I thought about it, but I did not.
Okay, so can you describe to the jury why, if you had already been confessed to by the defendant, why, when you were debriefed in 2022, you didn't choose to share this with anybody, any authorities?
Initially, I didn't know if me being federal, that would be something that I could use, and then I also didn't want to deal with everything that came with it, like being.
What do you mean by that?
Like being put out in the open, like over the news, all over the media. That comes with risk factors. That's a lot of stuff that I wasn't really know if I was ready to deal with.
So, best you remember, had you told anyone about what the defendant had told you up until just a few months ago?
No.
Okay. So do you have an attorney in your case?
Yes, sir.
And who's the first person that you decided finally to share this information with? Who'd you tell first, hey, I know some facts about what Zachariah Anderson did?
My lawyer.
Okay. And did you, and what were your instructions to that person? So when you told them, did you ask that person, hey, tell somebody this, or what happened?
I talked to him about, because like I said before, he asked me, what all did I know at this time? Like, you sure you don't know anything else? And I pondered about bringing that up again, and I brought it up to him. I was like, well, I do know something. And he said he was going to look into it, and he got back to me, and he told me you really should speak up about it.
And after hearing that from your lawyer, did you, what decision did you make?
I spoke up about it.
All right, I am going to skip through now to the next portion. So let's move on to cross. I apologize for chewing gum here, but my throat is like super dry. All right, so now we're going to move on to cross-examination of Marquand Washington. Uh-oh. What was that? Why did I get that? What? Okay, I don't know. Whatever link I did didn't work.
So I might have misunderstood your question as well. Are you asking him what he's facing, or what the plea agreement envisions?
Right now, I'm asking what he's facing, and then I'm going to ask about what he's going to get from the plea agreement.
All right, sorry. I'm trying another.
So I might have misunderstood your question as well. Are you asking him what he's facing, or what the plea agreement envisions?
Right now, I'm asking what he's facing, and then I'm going to ask about what he's going to get from the plea agreement.
So that's been asked and answered. He's already gone through the superseding indictment and asked whether Mr. Washington recognizes and understands each of the charges. So we've covered that.
So if I could, Judge, specifically, he wasn't sure.
Why don't you do this?
Yep.
Ask him if he's aware of the difference in numbers.
In numbers.
Potential outcome.
Oh, yeah. Well, first I want to establish which charges are at play here. And so you weren't sure about the felon in possession. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so I'm going to show you page 24 of the superseding indictment, which is Defendant's Exhibit 247.
Again, we covered.
So it appears that the defense's strategy is basically just to impeach Marquand Washington, share, how he's just not credible. He's doing this for a benefit for his case, and that was basically their strategy. So the whole time that I really wanted them to get to the dream part, but they never really debunked that, which I think might have been a mistake on their end. Potentially, I don't know, because you still are left did he have that dream? But how do you debunk a liar when it's two people? I don't know. So whatever. He had this dream about Zach had this dream, sorry, and Marquand saw him and whatever. But that's coming from someone who is trying to better their case. So you have to believe that there's a potential for him to lie, a big potential for him to lie. So basically, the defense's strategy, all I wanted to say was that the defense's strategy is attacking the fact that he's doing this for benefit for his own case. He goes on for a while about it, so I'm only going to show a portion of it.
Covered this, Judge. We've gone through the superseding indictment. He's gone through each charge. He's walked through each charge with him.
He's basing the question on other evidence as it relates to the witness's answer, which has most recently been given.
Correct. So I'm going to show you page 24 of Exhibit 247. This charges on or about October 20th, 2021, Marquand Washington, a.k.a. Munch. That's your street name?
It's actually irrelevant what his street name is.
It's part of the indictment.
Well, it's in the indictment.
Knowing he previously had been convicted of a crime punishable by an imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year, knowingly possessed a firearm which prior to his possession of it had been transported in interstate commerce, the possession of which was therefore in and affecting commerce. Is that right?
Yes.
So that's what you're actually charged with right now as we sit here today, right?
I thought they dropped that, but...
Well, that's what.
Are you saying it's already been dropped, or they're proposing to drop it?
I thought the plea arranged for that.
But
Not
their
to be
plea
in
hasn't gone through yet.
Right, but the plea that they had came to me with had removed the gun off there because I didn't get caught with a firearm.
The question is, because I asked you, if you recall, whether the plea had actually gone to court with the judge, and you had entered your plea, and I think you told me it had not.
Correct.
So you still have a pending charge.
Correct.
And until that time, whatever is charged in that indictment are the charges, in the superseding indictment,
Okay.
are the charges against you.
All right.
And I think what he's trying to do is to compare the potential outcomes between what you're charged with now, which will result in nothing unless the government can prove the case.
Right.
But if you're convicted, it could have a potential outcome. Or if you pleaded guilty, then you won't have any trial, and the judge will sentence you based upon your plea, which will apparently remove the firearms charge.
Okay.
So, but as it stands right now, if you were to go to court and you didn't plead guilty, the judge would have a trial, and the jury would decide based upon the charges that are contained in the superseding indictment right now.
Okay.
So basically, he doesn't have a deal unless or until it gets signed. So he doesn't even know if he's going to get this deal by testifying right now. And I think it might even depend on whether Zach gets convicted. Who knows? Maybe that's why they don't sign the agreement until afterwards. The prosecution. I don't know, but it's shady.
So I will show you.
And I just want to point out the fact that the prosecution is using this poor man who just wants time off of his sentence. I mean, I'm sure that's what everybody wants in prison, time off of their sentence. So he's being used by the prosecution to bolster their theory, their narrative of what happened when they honestly don't know, and they don't have a narrative of where Rosalio's body actually is. They don't have a narrative of what actually happened to him, to his body, who was there. They just, all it is we know Zach did it and he's guilty. That's all. That's what the prosecution's going with.
It's already been admitted as defendant's 252. This is the plea agreement, right?
Yes.
And so what it says is that the charge is count one that you're going to plead to, right? The conspiracy.
Correct.
That's the one with the 10-year mandatory minimum, right?
Correct.
The other two don't have mandatory minimums, right?
I believe so.
And then if we look on page 3, on paragraph 8 of that exhibit, it says the government agrees to, as part of the plea agreement, the government agrees to move to dismiss the indictment and the remaining counts of the superseding indictment as to this defendant at the time of sentencing. Is that right?
Correct.
And the plea agreement also has a provision for relevant conduct, right?
Yes.
And you understand that relevant conduct in the federal sentencing scheme, when you look at the guidelines, it's all driven by drug weights, right?
Correct.
And so the higher the drug weights, the higher the penalties, or the higher the guideline range, right?
I believe so.
And so in your case, they are, you're agreeing, when you sign this, if you sign it, that the defendant is responsible for at least 3,000 kilograms but less than 10,000 kilograms of converted drug weight. Is that right?
Yes.
And what they base that on is multiple different drugs, and they have a formula that comes up with that, right?
I believe so.
So, but specifically 30 kilograms of cocaine and 400 pounds of marijuana as part of your taking responsibility in the actual case, in the plea agreement, right?
Yeah, that's what they want me to take responsibility for.
Right. And they dropped all that crack stuff, right, as part of relevant conduct, right?
Right.
And your base offense level, you're agreeing, is 32 under the guidelines, right?
Correct.
So, but if we look on page 6 of this exhibit, just to be clear, 252, in the guidelines, you're a career offender. Is that right?
I qualify as when they say yes.
Okay. And a career offender is somebody that.
Objection. Yeah, why he qualifies as a career offender is not relevant to whether he's honest or not. What he's charged with?
I'm not talking about why he qualifies. I'm talking about the effect of being a career offender.
Well, no, your question actually did.
I can rephrase. Okay.
Go ahead.
So, but if you sign this, you agree that you understand that the probation department, the United States Probation Office, they will do a guidelines calculation, right?
Correct.
And they've already told you that you're a career offender based on your criminal history, right?
Correct.
And so, are you familiar with the guideline chart?
I've seen it, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you if that's what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to move to admit, I believe, defendant's 253, which is the guidelines chart.
Is there an objection?
Nope.
Received.
All right. So I'm putting it up on the chart here.
Sorry.
So here we have two axes. On the left is the offense level, right?
Counsel, I'm going to approach just
Yes.
close enough so I can see this because the writing's.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, this is-
I'm skipping forward because this stuff is kind of boring.
With the government, they had advised, well, you knew that they knew about certain things you had done both before you were arrested and while you were in jail in KCDC, right?
What do you mean, why one?
Well, specifically that you and another person had threatened a confidential informant during the investigation of a case against you in 2020, right?
No. That's the same thing you asked me about earlier when you said that we was riding around with guns. That's what I mentioned.
Okay.
Correct.
So they're saying you threatened, and you're saying you didn't.
Correct.
Okay. So, and then in 2022, while you were at KCDC, they discovered you had a USB drive in your cell, right?
Correct.
Something like this, right?
Correct.
Listen to this, because this part I think is important.
And that contained the discovery for your case, right?
Yes.
And there was the judge had signed a protective order specifically barring the copying and sending out of the discovery materials, right?
I've never seen that, but
Okay.
wasn't
Well,
on.
they discovered you had it, and they confiscated it, right?
they came for something else, some pornography or something somebody else had going on, and they took it, and I haven't received it back, but I have been asking for it back because it is mine, and I can't have it, so.
Well, you can't have it because a federal judge entered an order saying you can't have it.
Well,
I
objection,
never
he-
received that order.
Objection. He has already testified. He doesn't know that.
He didn't let me finish my question either.
Well, but let's go back even a step back more. The discovery that you're referring to is the discovery in the federal court case,
That's
not
correct.
the case here.
That's correct.
All right. And
be
so
clear
why
about
don't you
that.
start over with a question?
Okay. So the USB drive you had in your cell was for your conspiracy case, the federal conspiracy case, right?
Correct.
And you're saying you didn't know anything about the protective order.
Never got it.
Okay. You never, not to talk about, like you were never advised by anybody that you weren't supposed to have this?
The lawyer never mentioned nothing like that to me.
Okay, so because there's federal inmates at KCDC, they make arrangements, the federal government makes arrangements for defendants to have access to the discovery, right, in a separate room, right?
Correct.
And so how did you manage to get a USB with all of your discovery despite the prohibition?
We can buy them, but I bought an extra one from Mr. Anderson.
So you bought a USB drive and you went into the separate room to look at your discovery and you made a copy of it.
Correct.
Okay. So now that's been confiscated from you, right?
Correct.
All right. So in January, you had an epiphany about talking about Mr. Anderson's case with, so that you can get help on your federal case, right? We've established that. I'm sorry. I'd like to finish my question, if you don't mind.
Well,
I'd like to finish my question, Judge.
I'm objecting to the term epiphany,
Yeah.
which was the beginning of the question. It's argumentative.
Well, it's a word that's frequently misused. So I don't actually know what he's looking for. Epiphany means manifestation. And so I don't know. That's kind of a...
It's very peripheral.
You must have one of the brainiacs because that only they studied Greek when I was in school.
Okay.
Start your question over.
All right, so January, you decide you're going to advance the ball on Mr. Anderson's case to help your federal case. We've established that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then on January 17th of 2023, just, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or so, you sit down with some police officers and the district attorney, right?
Correct.
Specifically, you were sitting down with all of the people at this table, right?
Correct.
Detective Carrera, District Attorney Jessica Kazarek, and District Attorney Michael Gravely, right?
Correct.
Those three people at this table.
Correct.
And also, actually, with Warren Anschutz. Remember that name? There's another person there?
I believe so. I don't remember the name, but
Was your lawyer there?
no.
He was not there for this interview?
No.
Okay. But you sat down at the Kenosha County Jail, right?
Yes.
And you met with these three individuals for about an hour and a half?
I didn't count the time, but I
Sound about right?
I spoke with them, yeah.
Okay. And as you were being asked questions, who's doing the main questioning? Mr. Gravely?
Correct.
Okay. Was that like exclusively throughout the interview, or did the others kind of like chime in once in a while?
Everybody spoke up, yes.
But it was mainly Mr. Gravely?
Yes.
Okay. And he made it clear to you that he was very interested in having you come here, right?
He wanted to hear what I had to say, yes.
And that after you testify, he's going to report back to the United States Attorney about how well you did, right?
My lawyer said he probably would talk to him.
Nope.
Yes, he didn't really. I didn't ask him that.
Okay. But that's what you're hoping for.
Objection. We've covered this area. What he's hoping for, ask and answer.
Overall.
Yes?
Yes.
All in service of getting you out of the mandatory minimums and possibly the 262 months that in theory you face, right?
Whatever it would help with, yes.
In fact, the charge against you actually has a maximum of life, right?
If I go to trial, yes.
Well, whether or not you go to trial, it's still a maximum of life, potentially, right?
Correct.
And so the guidelines say one thing, the mandatory minimums say another, and you're trying to get down to something where you can get back on the street, right?
Yes.
Just one moment, Judge.
I'm skipping through the consultation.
Just a couple more, Judge. Ms. Washington, when you had the drive, this was actually, I'm just using this as an example, but when you got the drive when you were in your cell, you got that from Zach, right?
Correct.
And in fact, you stole it from Zach. No?
No.
Okay. In any event, there was already material on it, right?
Zach removed the material from it and sold it to me, yes.
Okay. So if the government who seized it found that Zach's discovery was on it in addition to your discovery, you'd be surprised to hear that.
Yes.
He's talking about the flash drive. He has a flash drive. Mr. Birdsall just questioned him, did you steal it from Zach? He says no, and laughed. But for whatever reason, Zach's discovery was found, as well as Marquand Washington's discovery for their cases, were found on this flash drive that Marquand says that he bought off of Zach after Zach wiped it clean. I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
I will be.
Okay. I think I just need to move in.
I also sent money to Zach for that.
I just need to move in Exhibit 250. This is the proffer letter, or the letter demonstrated.
Read right.
Mr. Washington,
All right, so that was, we watched a good portion of Marquand Washington's testimony. What do you guys think about his credibility? What do you think about the fact that he's getting some kind of benefit for testifying against Zach? What do you think about that? All right, next we're going to go to Rebecca Jekyll. I hope that's who's next.
Be seated.
Okay.
Ma'am, could you please state your name for the record and spell it?
Rebecca Jacob.
She's the best friend of Sadie. We're going to watch a little bit of her testimony here, a little bit of direct, a little bit of cross. I like to play both sides. I don't want to put a witness on here and just give it like a one-sided view. I want to show you guys both their direct and their cross, so you can decide for yourself if you think they are telling the truth or not.
REBECCAJAECKEL.
And do you know somebody by the name of Sadie Beecham?
I do.
And how do you know Sadie Beecham?
We've been friends for about 30 years.
How long?
About 30 years.
And during your friendship with Miss Beecham, did you come to know someone by the name of Zachariah Anderson?
I did.
And do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point out where he's seated, what he's wearing?
Wearing a blue suit with a plaid-ish tie. Sitting at the table in the middle over there.
What kind of a tie?
Kind of looks plaid. Blue and gray.
Fish.
No, plaid-ish. Sorry.
Plaid-ish, okay.
Plaid fish. You think it's a fish tie? Is that what you said?
I thought she said a plaid fish tie.
I got it. Okay.
And I said, what, is it shaped like a fish? Or?
Yeah.
I've seen it. All right, indicating the accused.
And taking you back to 2019, 2020, did you become aware of when Miss Beecham ended her relationship for the last time with the defendant?
I'm going to object to relevance.
Overruled.
Yes.
And
She,
when do you recall that being the final time that they had broken up?
I would say it was like around Christmas or shortly after, if
Of what year?
2019.
Remember, Zach and Sadie had... Oh, you know what? I want to get... This is a good time to break and look for it. Okay, so Zach and Sadie had a fight. Remember? A big argument at the end of... Change views on this. Well, that's even worse. hold on. Sorry. Where's my other? Here. Okay. There we go. So this, I wanted to get this out for later for, when we do always testimony. I want to look through here, but so remember here, okay, December 24th, 2019. We read through this timeline already, but I just wanted to remind us. Okay, so Zach and Sadie have a verbal altercation regarding the children at Sadie's home. This is Christmas Eve. Zach was given a municipal citation for disorderly conduct because Sadie called the police on him, and Sadie requested a 72-hour no-contact period, which was granted. The Washington County District Attorney declined to prosecute the incident because there was no physical confrontation between the two parties. According to Sadie, though, after the incident, they break up. They break up for good. So, according to Sadie, but she's still texting him Z-Bear and things all the way until May of 2020. But we're not supposed to pay attention to that. All right, so let's go back to our video of no. This one. Okay, there we go. I got too many different thingies here. All right, so this is Rebecca Jekyll continuing on with her testimony. I just wanted to interject. Sorry.
Now, fast forward a short while. Did you become aware of Miss Beecham planning a vacation?
Yes, I did.
And what was the nature of that vacation that you were aware of?
She had let me know that other friends of hers had been looking at going on a trip down to Mexico and that she had the opportunity to go and that she was thinking about going. And
Other friends. I want to know who these other friends are. I want to know who she went to Mexico with because it's never stated. It's never told to us. I honestly wonder if she went to Mexico with Rosalio because when she comes back, they're like all lovey-dovey in text messages with one another. So, I don't know. But it's never clarified. I don't know who she goes with, but it almost seems suspicious. Like, yeah, maybe she went with him to Mexico. I don't know.
And what month would that have been, if you can recall?
the trip was at the beginning of March 2020.
And what, if any, role were you going to be playing in her ability to go on this trip in March of 2020?
She had asked me if I would be able to possibly help out with the kids for a couple of nights while she was gone.
And what was the plan concerning you watching the children?
Well, they were in daycare at the time. I think the boys were, and I think their daughter, it was COVID, so I don't know where they were during the day, but I was at work. And then I would be there for the kids in the evening for dinner, bedtime, and then get them off to where they needed to be in the morning before I went to work. And it was Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday I was going to have the kids go with her stepmom and dad.
And what was the plan, to your knowledge, of whether or not the defendant was supposed to be present for any of that?
He was not going to be. He was actually out of state, was my understanding.
So I'm going to direct your attention to the early morning hours of March 5th of 2020. Do you recall something that caused you concern on that morning?
Yeah.
And what was that?
I had fallen asleep in the living room on the couch, and when I had woke up, the lights were off. I think the TV was in sleep mode, and I saw a dark figure at the end of the couch. And then when I don't know if I moved or made a sound or whatnot, but where my feet were, there was...
Judge, I'm going to object on the grounds of relevance and other acts. And if this needs to be argued further, I'd like it to be outside the presence of the jury.
Well, I'm going to, at this point, overrule the objection. Go ahead.
So what happened when you saw the figure at the end of the couch?
Like I said, I don't know if I moved or made a sound, but the lights went on, and the defendant was standing at the end of the couch just smiling at me and said, "Hey there." And I didn't really even know what to say. And so then he said, "Where the fuck are my kids and their whore mother?"
Pause for a second. Remember, Sadie had a pattern of leaving the kids by themselves or leaving the kids and not telling Zach who he was leaving them with. For example, in this case, when she went to Mexico for a week, she leaves a good friend in charge for, and she just said in her testimony, for a few nights. So who was watching the kids the other nights? We don't even know. We don't even know who was watching the kids because Sadie is shady. And I'm just saying, she didn't tell Zach. She should have been telling Zach that she was leaving the country and, you know, if he wanted to watch the kids for that week, he should have been the first one to watch them. But anyways, so that's my impression. Also, the fact that he walks into the house, that he apparently has permission from Sadie to go and do his laundry and stuff like that. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities where he'll just show up and start doing laundry at this house where his children are and spending time with his kids. So she's going to go on and say like he was exhibiting some strange behaviors, but I also want to say, you know, he just found out by coming over there because he was trying to get a hold of Sadie. She wasn't answering him. He wanted to check in on the kids, and yeah. So, anyways, here, let's continue on.
And he went upstairs and woke up the kids.
And do you recall roughly what time of morning this was?
It was about 3:45 in the morning.
And where were you staying that night that the defendant was in the living room?
In Sadie's home.
And to your knowledge, did the defendant live there?
No, he did not.
To your knowledge, was he supposed to be there?
No.
After the defendant went upstairs to wake up the children, what do you recall happening next?
He came back down with the kids and stood there.
I just realized I was muted. Sorry. My dog keeps walking around because he thinks if he begs enough and paces, he'll get something. Anyways, so watch her answers. I almost feel like she's being like a victim and like, oh, this was so hard. This was such a difficult, traumatic experience for me that Zach came in. Like, I almost feel like she's portraying herself as a victim that this happened to her. Give me a break. You're watching his kids, lady. They're his kids, not yours.
And started asking me. He actually told me that he was surprised I was there because he thought I was be down in Mexico whoring with her when he saw my Jeep in the driveway. And then he asked me again who she was with, and I told him the people who he also knows. And he told me not to lie and that he knows she's fucking somebody whose name starts with an L.
Now, at this point, given your friendship with Miss Beecham, are you aware of anyone in her life at that point whose name or nickname started with an L?
Yeah.
And who is that?
Rosalio. We actually called him Leo because when she first told me his name, I'm kind of hard of hearing, and so I was like, I didn't understand what she said, so we started, like, made a joke that we would call him Leo, and that's, for a while, that's how she referred to him whenever she would speak to me about him.
And prior to this March 5th incident you're talking about, approximately how long before that did you first hear about this Leo?
I want to say maybe late January, early February, she kind of started talking about this guy that she was kind of chatting with, and I don't know for sure if that was when, but I remember, like, closer to Valentine's Day, she really started to talk more about him than, you know, she had in the weeks prior.
Now, back to March 5th of 2020, after I think the defendant said the thing about thinking that you'd be in Mexico, what happened next?
After he came back down with the kids, you mean?
Yes.
I remember I contacted Sadie, and 911 was called, and he was in the kitchen making breakfast and telling them to hurry up and eat because Auntie Becky says I'm a bad man and the cops are coming.
And was this still roughly around 4 a.m.?
It was around, yeah, I mean, when I looked at the clock, it was about, for the first time that I remember looking, it was about 3:45 in the morning, according to the clock in the living room.
And who had been the one to call 911?
Sadie did.
And why, in your understanding, was that done?
Because I contacted her and I let her
No
know.
object as far as speculation as to why Miss Beecham called 911.
I believe she's saying what she stated to Miss Beecham, which I believe she will then represent is why she believes 911 was called. It's all about her statements to Miss Beecham.
All what?
It's all about her statements to Miss Beecham about the situation, so it's not hearsay because she's going to provide it, and Miss Beecham has testified have been crossed.
Overruled.
So I had contacted her and I just said, what the hell, Zach is here? Like, what is he doing here? And I didn't know what to do. I was terrified. I didn't know why he was there. My understanding he wasn't supposed to be there. And she proceeded to call 911 because if she hadn't, I told her I would.
Okay, why wasn't he supposed to be there? There was no order that he shouldn't be there. So this is a lie. She's straight up lying because later on cross, she says, no, there was no protective order. So she knows that there's no reason why Zach couldn't be there. Anyways, we're going to move on to cross, speaking of, because I want to see Nicole Muller in action. She's awesome when she cross-examines people. So let's hear what she's got to say now in cross. Rebecca Jekyll cross-examination.
Going back to when you were watching the kids when Miss Beecham was in Mexico, had you been made aware that Mr. Anderson would be coming to the residence to do laundry?
Nope, I was not.
Okay. And was there some sort of protective order that you were aware of that Mr. Anderson could not see his children?
No.
You had mentioned on direct examination that there were times where Mr. Anderson would go radio silent.
Yes.
Can you explain what you meant by that?
It's a term that he literally would just completely not speak to her, not contact her, and then out of nowhere, turned up the volume.
How frequently would that happen?
It happened quite a bit, I would say, in 2019 is when it became a pretty frequent thing, on and off.
So there were times where Mr. Anderson would literally have no contact with Miss Beecham.
That I'm aware of, yes.
And that was I'm just trying to understand, that was on a pretty frequent basis starting in 2019.
More and more in 2019.
Okay. Into 2020?
No, I said in 2019 is when it became more frequent.
Okay. Do you remember when in 2019?
After we came back from Arizona at the beginning of 2019, there was some issues, and after that took place, he went radio silent, and then showed up out of nowhere after about 2 weeks, and then he was around quite a bit, and then he would do it again, and then towards the end of 2019, he shone around again, and that was that.
Okay. You talked about, I'm going to show you again, State's Exhibit 283. Is it up there?
Nope, it's right here.
I just want to point out, we don't know what Sadie's behavior was during that year of 2019 when Zach would disappear. We don't know why he disappeared. We don't know anything, I mean, there's a lot of speculation that you can make from that statement, or, you can infer some things, but, I mean, technically, we don't know the other side of why he did it, and, and who cares? That doesn't mean he did. That doesn't mean anything in relevance to Rosalio.
Talking to you about this text message string about phone call has been placed. All I was told is it will be again, and you will not know when, where, or how. Call me in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
That next message you says it will begin. Are you correcting yourself for where you said it will be again?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. So you don't know if it will begin is supposed to be put in. So the text would read, all I was told is it will begin, and you will not know when, where, or how. Call me in 1 week.
Objection.
I don't know.
Objection. She said she doesn't know. So then the question is repeated, but her answer was,
I think she's lying.
I don't know.
All right.
So you talked a little bit today about what you meant by that text. The state asked you some questions. When did you talk to law enforcement about this text?
So remember, this text that says something, it will begin in 1 week. It's very cryptic. Coming from Rebecca to Sadie, and do we have it? I don't remember when it was. So Sadie and Zach. Rebecca, I just saw Rebecca. He's hacking into my phone, Sadie says. Phone call has been placed, Rebecca, to Sadie 2:35 p.m. on May 14th. So just a few days before Rosalio goes missing. Phone call has been placed. All I was told is it will be again, and you will not know when, where, or how. Call me in 1 week. And then she corrects herself a minute later saying it will begin. So that this really should have said, all I was told is it will begin, and you will not know where, when, where, or how. What kind of crazy... Oh, sorry. What kind of crazy cryptic texts are these? You won't know when, where, or how. It will begin. Then they talk for 19 minutes, mind you. So what were they talking about in that 19 minutes about it? I'm sure they were talking about it. And there was nothing beforehand other than Sadie to Rebecca, he's hacking into my phone or something. My daughter told me he hacked into her school Chromebook. I can't prove it is the problem. That's what she sends to Rebecca, and then Rebecca says those cryptic things.
I didn't talk to them until recently.
When you say recently, was this a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
I think.
Prior to 2 weeks ago, had law enforcement ever talked to you?
Not about this, no.
So 2 weeks ago, you tell law enforcement or whomever, and you testified to it today, that this message had to deal with your son, correct?
It had to deal with us trying to prove that he had something on her phone and who I contacted.
So
What?
you called your son, and your son then told you that it will begin. You will not know when, where, or how. Call me in 1
Whoops,
week.
sorry.
I didn't say my son said that. That was my text message to Sadie. My son had told me that if he and his friend would do it, it would be about a week.
Okay, and your son was 18 at the time?
Yes?
You living at home?
Yes?
So your son who's living at home, you'd have to call him in 1 week to ask him about something.
No, I didn't say that.
Well,
I said that she can call me in a week. It doesn't say call him in a week. It says call in a week.
She's real defensive about these texts, and she's not really explaining, I think, thoroughly what they're about. She's saying something about because he was doing some kind of, because he was hacking into Sadie's program, like phone or something. So the son is going to do something to break into their phones or something. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But that's what she's trying to say is like her son's looking into this hacking business.
We'll break down the text you sent. You said all I was told is, correct?
Correct.
So you're talking about, at this point, something that was told to you.
Correct.
And then you continue, it will begin and you will not know when, where, or how. Call me in 1 week.
Call me in 1 week.
So the call me in 1 week is something that you're saying wasn't told to you, but is what you're telling to Sadie.
Correct.
But everything prior to that is what you were told.
Objection, it's argumentative.
No, it says you will not. My message was to Sadie, and it says you will not. So that's my message to Sadie. That's not, I'm not repeating what was said to me. That message is to Sadie.
So what were you told then? Because you're saying all I was told is, but you're saying everything after that is not what you were told, but is something you're just telling Sadie?
All I was told was it will be again. That's what I was told. And then I say you will not know where or how. Call me in a week. That's my text message.
So what did you mean to Sadie then when you told her you...
And what the hell does that mean? And give us some context. She's not explaining it thoroughly. Like, I'm not satisfied with her answers and how she's explaining this at all.
will not know when, where, or how?
I don't know. I was being cryptic in the fact that I thought Zach was actually able to read her messages at that point.
So you don't know what you meant by this text then?
I know what I meant by it, but it's basically saying it'll be a week and you can get it's to her.
So at any point did you get Sadie's phone?
No, I already said that nothing happened. I already said that nothing came of it.
But when you texted her, you didn't tell her that someone would need her phone.
I didn't have to tell her that at that point.
So you're thinking that Miss Beecham knew what your cryptic text meant?
No, I didn't think that she knew what it meant.
You can answer.
I just did. I said no, I didn't know for sure that she needed to know at that point.
She admits it's a cryptic text, but how are you supposed to the receiver of that text, how are they supposed to understand what it means if you're sending a cryptic text? That makes no sense to me. Obviously, it must make sense to them.
Did you give law enforcement your son's information to talk to him about this?
They asked about where he was, and I said that he was stationed in Virginia at this time. And that was all I was asked.
You didn't give them his phone number?
No.
Did you give him an email?
No, I wasn't asked.
No further questions.
All right, sorry, I was muted. Here, we're moving on to OA, who is the daughter of Sadie and Zach, their oldest child. She's not going to be on screen, but we do get to hear the audio. So, and I'm
going to refer to that individual as the defendant, just for purposes of our discussion.
Sure.
So, okay, so when the defendant came in and back to the car, what happened next?
I said, sure,
Okay.
and I went up with him,
hold on
and we
one
went
second. I'm
to
trying to get to-
the window. We walked around the balcony this time, and we went up the stairs, and we went to the window. And he looks at me, and he says, before you do anything, go like this with your shirt to make sure that you don't get the breath marks on the window.
So I'd just like to have the record reflect that the witness, Your Honor, pulled their shirt up, blocking their ability to sort of breathe on objects, covering their nose and mouth.
Her, yes.
Okay. So then after you were advised of that by the defendant, what's the next thing that happened?
I saw I don't know how to refer to him.
Whatever you're comfortable.
Mr. Gutierrez, I guess.
Okay.
And I saw him sitting on the couch.
All right, so remember now, this is the testimony from OA talking about when he went up to the window, apparently, of Sadie's living room window and spied on Sadie and Rosalio. But here's the problem with their testimony. I want to show you this before we get into it because it's coming. I want you to be prepared. So this is the bar that Sadie's apartment is right next to. Okay. So she's saying that they parked somewhere in this bar area and that she saw Zach going to Sadie's window, which is on the other side of the building. So it's impossible for her to have seen that from the car. And there's a bunch of bushes that line this whole area here. And then later she says he pulls into this second driveway and goes and does something and then rings the doorbell and takes off, speeding home or something. And that's mostly what OA is going to testify to. But as you can see, that's not really possible. There's some problems with that. So if Sadie's front door's over here, how is Zach parking in the bar and going up? I mean, it's possible, but as you can see, there's trees that line this whole area. I don't know. He would have to like squeeze through the bushes or something. But even then, how would OA see it? It just doesn't make sense, her testimony. So I just wanted to point that out before we get into it because now you'll be more prepared. Here we go.
With my mother coming out of the bathroom, and I think that was gonna be sorry. They were listening to music and laying there together.
And doing what together?
Just laying there on the couch.
Okay. So what room are you looking into from where your vantage point is?
The living room. There's a space in between the curtains.
Okay. And what window of your mom's place are you looking through to be able to see into the living room?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you're on the outside, correct?
Correct.
So which window? Is it a window that goes into the kitchen? Is it a window that looks directly in the living room? So what?
It's a window that looks directly in the living room.
Okay. And where's the defendant during that period of time?
Standing next to me.
Okay. And after you look in and see that, what is the next thing that happens?
We leave.
What? You leave?
We got back in the car and we were on our way out, and he didn't grab the voice recorder at first until he pulled out and pulled onto the road, and he stopped. He stopped right at the second entryway to our driveway and got out, took his sandals off, and went to the house.
So let me stop you. What footwear then was your?
He didn't have shoes on.
Okay, keep going.
He went into Mr. Gutierrez's car and took his registration and took a picture of his license plate.
Okay.
And
sorry, you saw that from where you were in the car?
Yes, I personally saw that.
Then what happened?
And I saw him ring the doorbell, and then run back to the car and drive away.
I don't know about the registration and if he stole that or not. There's still, big questions about whether that happened because it was never found. However, it's not unheard of for you to investigate the boyfriend of your children's mother if you are no longer the man in their life or in her life and you want to see who she might be bringing into your children's lives. It's not unheard of to check into them and to look into their license plate to find, personal information about them. I would venture to say that a lot of people probably have done this.
Doorbell did he ring?
My mother's, but he also had grabbed the phone while he was, somewhere in the time period from when he rang the doorbell, the phone was grabbed.
And which phone are you referring to now?
I'm the one that was placed in the air conditioner.
Okay. So after the defendant goes to Mr. Gutierrez's truck, takes a picture and takes an item out of the vehicle or takes a registration, grabs back the phone, and he rings the doorbell, what does the defendant do next after he does those three things?
Comes back to the car with the phone.
All right. And then what happens?
Plays the phone.
Okay.
Plays a recording on our way home.
Okay. And what, if anything, can you say about what you could hear on that phone recording?
Nothing.
Okay. So where do you guys go next?
Back to my dad's house.
Okay. When you get back, what happens next?
I walk in. He tells me to get some sleep. I then was sitting downstairs and thinking about what just happened because I was a little like, did I really just see what I saw, what I just witnessed? And it was fine after that, I guess. And
so let me ask you, what did the defendant do next that you saw? So after you guys got home, what happened next, if anything?
he dropped me off and then he left again.
Okay. And you were not with him at that time?
No, I don't remember what time that was. We got back around 3 though.
Did he tell you what he was going to do next before he left?
No.
Okay. So now, if I understand you, by now it's 3 a.m. on your actual 12th birthday.
Yes.
Okay. Can you indicate what, if any, plan was ever suggested to you to try to get your mom in trouble?
Yes.
What plan was suggested?
The plan was for, now this might be a little confusing. The plan was for my dad to drive me and my little brothers to the house, and then...
To whose house?
My mom's house.
Okay.
And then he would put the boys to bed, and he would drive all the way back to his house, call the cops from there, and say, my daughter just called me, and I would have to call my mom but not make it ring. So I had to call her, but the phone wouldn't be able to ring. It just had to ring on my phone to prove that that her phone was called. Only on my end, though. So it would show that I'd called her several times and she didn't answer. So that's the look.
Who was supposed to do that? Who was supposed to do
Me.
that part of the plan? Okay. And is this on a day that you wouldn't have been at your mom's house?
No, this would have been a day where I would have been at my dad's house and my mom would be out.
Okay.
And the plan was basically to call the cops and say how my mom abandoned us.
All right.
And how I had to call my dad.
Okay. And who suggested?
I want to point out that at this stage in OA's life, she had been deceptive with her parents, making up lies, stealing her aunt's cell phone and lying about it. So it is not unheard of for OA to be making things up. So I want you to keep that in mind. So we already know she's not that credible for that reason alone. Secondly, we know that by the time she takes the stand here, we are in 2003, and Zach has already been in prison since 2020. So 3 years almost he's been sitting in prison. They haven't seen or talked to one another. Sadie is the sole parent that is providing influence over their children. And if Sadie is a known liar, fibber, exaggerator, what have you, it's not unheard of that the kids see that, and pick it up on their own behaviors, not even realizing it. They can do that. So it's very easy for her answers to just not be very trustworthy. That's all I wanted to point out. Let's continue on.
Suggested this plan?
My dad.
And when he suggested this, what age were you?
10, 11?
And so I want to take you back to a time period before that April 24th birthday time period and ask, was there a time in the month of March of 2020 when your mom went on vacation without you?
Yes.
And during the first nights that your mom went on vacation, where were you going to stay? What was the plan on where you were staying?
I would stay at home at the house with my aunt.
Okay, and who was taking care of you?
My aunt.
And who's that?
My aunt. Becky?
Becky? Okay. And do you know, is Becky actually related to you or just a close friend of your mom's?
No, she's like my mom's sister, though. So she's not really my aunt, but...
But you call her that?
Yeah.
Okay. So she was staying overnight with you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. And during the time period that Becky was staying with you guys overnight in your mom's house, did something happen that caused you to be either disturbed or alarmed on a particular time?
Yes.
So if you can you tell me about what time of day? What's your best estimate on what time of day that happened?
It was pretty late at night. I mean, it was more like early morning. It was really, really, really early in the morning.
Okay. So can you give me an estimate on what time?
Maybe between 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
Somewhere.
And if you know, was it a school night?
Yeah.
Okay. And were your 4-year-old brothers also at the residence?
Yes.
Okay. So what happened at some time between 2 and 4 in the morning at your residence that caused you to be disturbed? And I'm only asking about what you personally had happen.
Okay. I remember kind of waking up to footsteps up the stairs.
Okay.
And then I kind of drifted back off into a sleep, and then Dad was standing at the side of my bed, and he was like, "Get up for school, let's go." And I was like, "What?" And I was really confused, and then I was like, "Okay," because at that time, what am I going to do? I mean, my parents telling me to get ready at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I don't really know what the point of it was, but he had made breakfast.
So what time did you eat breakfast on this particular day in March of 2020?
I don't know, we had French toast and eggs, and the time wasn't very clear.
Was it before 4:30 in the morning?
Most definitely.
Okay, and you ate? Who else ate?
My 2 little brothers.
And how did they happen to get up and have breakfast at that time on a school day?
My dad came into our rooms and woke us all up.
Had you been expecting your dad in any way, shape, or form to arrive?
No.
Okay, so let me ask you, if we get to a point where you on a Sunday go to the family tree farm, do you remember that?
A little, yeah.
Okay, and what vehicle got you to the family tree farm?
The van.
And is this a regular vehicle you have that you know of, that you are familiar with?
Yeah.
So who usually operates that van?
The defendant.
Okay, and if you saw a picture of that van.
I'm going to skip us forward, but she testifies to the fact that she went to the tree farm that Saturday before Rosalio went missing with Zach and his, I think Zenith, his sister was there, one of the brothers was there, I think it was Josh, and their dad. And while they were planting seedlings and doing things on the farm, the kids were running around and playing. She testified that the carpet was intact in the minivan when they drove there, although we find the testimony from Susan Williamson Brown says that the area of carpet had already been removed from that section of the van, which was more, I think, in the back, and there were seats in the van when OA saw the van. So how would she know if there was a piece of carpet, if the seats were hiding it? But when Susan Brown Williamson, or Williams Brown, I don't know which order it goes in, she said that there were no seats in there, and he was using it as a vehicle to transport things in the car. So that was that Monday following. So that would have been supposedly the day that he disposed of Rosalio's body, but he was at that woman's house doing reconstruction, rehabbing things. He was putting old materials and construction materials and tools in the back of that van that day. So how would he have had Rosalio's body just been in there without being able to clean it properly, right? Because if you just did it that morning, as the state's saying, you wouldn't have had time to do anything to clean it. Anyways, let's move on to this is a cross-examination of OA.
Thing is, we'll start with the weekend you were at the tree farm. The state had said Sunday the 17th, changed it to the weekend, but you were there on Saturday, May 16th, 2020, right?
I probably was. I don't really remember the quite dates like that.
Okay.
Like reference like that. But yes, it was somewhere around that time.
So, because after you went to the tree farm, did you go back home and spend the night at your dad's?
You probably are right, it is Saturday.
Okay, because you remembered that afterwards you went home and spent the night.
Correct.
And when you were at the tree farm, there were other people there, right? Who else was there?
I know one of my uncles was. I remember my grandpa being there, and that's really it.
Was your aunt there?
I don't remember.
And you said your grandfather and then one of your uncles, was that Solomon Anderson?
No.
Joshua Anderson?
Correct.
Okay. So you go to the tree farm, and what did you do that day?
Hung out at the tree farm. We were planting new seedlings and stuff in the field. I don't know, it was just a normal day at the farm. Like, there wasn't anything off.
And you said you and your brothers went?
Yeah.
And your dad? And so you guys get there, you're going to have a good day at the tree farm. When you get there, what do you do when you first get there?
Said hi to everybody.
So you got out of the car,
Yeah.
and then you went and said hi to everyone.
Yeah.
And then what did you do? After you said hi to everyone, what did you do next? You said you were planting saplings, things of that sort. So did you go out into the fields? Like, that's basically what I'm trying to get at.
Sorry, before you said my aunt, correct?
Yeah, asked if your aunt was there.
I think that you would be referring to Zenith.
Correct.
Yes, she was there. Me, her, Josh, my dad, Grandpa,
The boys.
the boys. I think that was really who was it.
Yeah, so after you get out of the car, you say hi to everyone who's there. What do you do next at the tree farm that day?
I don't quite understand.
So,
Okay. If you're asking what I was doing, I was hanging out with my little brothers.
okay, and were you hanging out in the barn? Were you hanging out in the fields? Where exactly were you hanging out?
We
with
were
your
hanging
brothers?
out in the vehicle.
You were hanging out in the vehicle?
We had went back to the vehicle, and then we ran around out in the field. The tree farm's pretty big. There's a lot of things for kids to do there, so, we just ran around, explored. I don't know.
Yeah, so you're out and about. You're not playing in the car.
No, not necessarily. No.
You're out on the whole tree farm, which it is big. Lots of things to do there.
Yeah.
And so then after you're playing, hanging out, do you all get dinner together? Or do you go back in the car and go back to your dad's house?
We probably stopped for food on the way back, I'm sure, because
I'm going to skip forward
tree
because
farm.
this is just
two different
boring
fields.
stuff.
So
Because
no.
there's like kind of a front field and a back. When you were
So
in the
there's
van,
two
you were sitting in the
fields.
front seat, and the boys were sitting in the back seat of the van, and that there were no seats in the middle.
Correct.
And could you see that space in between perfectly without obstruction?
Yeah.
There was nothing. So in that,
There was obviously my own dad's junk in his own car, because that's pretty normal, but other than the normal stuff that was in the car already, no, there were no middle seats.
and there was nothing else on the carpet other than some trash and
Maybe some clothes or something, I don't know.
clothes.
Just typical stuff.
Typical man stuff in a van.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Counsel, would you be so kind to pull up the exhibit of the carpet, the back of the car? It states Exhibit 260. I remember being asked about this photo earlier,
Yes.
and you had said that you did not observe the van like this on the 16th, right?
No, I did not.
So, I hate to make you get up. Maybe I'll just get up. So, can I have your stick? Thank you. Okay, so if the back seats were in, they would be locked in right here. Correct?
Yeah.
So if the seats are there, you're not necessarily going to be able to see directly underneath.
No, there was carpet underneath there.
You could see completely underneath.
I could see completely underneath the seats. That seat was not like that.
Okay, and you're saying that there was nothing in this area? Just open.
Besides what my dad's stuff was in his car, no. There was nothing out of the ordinary.
So where was the chainsaw?
In the trunk?
Where in the trunk? The back seats are back there.
No. The trunk cuts off right behind those seats.
So there's enough space with the back seats.
The click, the back seat, stops right where you're
Right
pointing.
there. So you're saying the chainsaw was right here.
Correct.
When did you see the chainsaw? I'm good with that exhibit, thank you.
When we had gone to the tree farm, I noticed that my uncle and my dad were exchanging or fixing his, so that we had brought it there to fix the chainsaw. At the same time, my dad was also cutting down trees in his yard, so.
So, you remember speaking with detectives on multiple occasions, right?
Which one?
I'm just saying, it was not just one time that you spoke with detectives, there were multiple times.
Yeah.
The first time was when you and your mom went to the police department on May 19th, 2020. That was the first time, right? You guys went there together?
I'm not sure. I've met with so many different people and talked about this situation with so many different people. I probably couldn't even recall any of the times that you're about to ask me.
Okay. But the first time, so then do you remember, it wasn't until you didn't, the first time you met with law enforcement, you didn't tell them anything about a chainsaw, correct?
Correct. I didn't feel that it was very needed since it wasn't used for this case.
So you said, though, that one of the times you talked to detectives that while you were at the farm, your dad never took that chainsaw out of the van. Do you remember telling detectives that?
I don't remember saying that.
Is it possible you said that?
Not sure.
So what happened then? Maybe if you could explain now. Did he never take the chainsaw?
No, he definitely took the chainsaw.
Okay, so
He definitely brought it into the barn, and they were fixing on it and doing chain stuff on it and seeing what was wrong with the chain. Oh yeah, I remember that like the back of my hand. He definitely took it out of the vehicle and brought it into the barn.
so then you wouldn't have said that he never took the.
No, like I said, I did not say that.
You did not say that. That would be a lie if you said that.
Objection. To call something a lie would be to.
Lie is one form of
I will
inaccurate
rephrase.
statement. Go ahead.
Thank you. That would be an untrue statement.
Same objection.
Well, inaccurate.
That would not.
Possibly.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
It's not what you saw.
I'm saying I'm not sure, but I do remember him bringing a chainsaw to the tree farm and him taking it out of the van and bringing it to the workshop.
And do you remember saying that your dad was wearing flip-flops when he got to the tree farm, and that he then changed into your grandfather's boots when he was there?
I do remember saying that, actually.
And your dad wore flip-flops
All the time.
All the time, even in like weird weather.
I mean, snowing, sleet, heavy packed snow, he's wearing sandals. There's no question.
Even when it makes literally
No sense. Yeah, sandals.
Yeah. Rain, snow, like you said, everything. And a lot of times, too, he would wear these sandals and then change into different shoes when he was at the farm.
He always had other shoes. He just preferred to wear his flip-flops if he was running in and out of somewhere, or just anything simple. My dad was very simple, so for him to wear flip-flops all the time, it was just easy for him.
Yeah. And his being simple also translated to his style, right?
I guess I'm going to object to questions about the defendant's style. It
Well,
seems irrelevant.
The state talked about everything he was wearing. That's where I'm going with this.
Well, whether it was fashionable or not would be irrelevant.
It doesn't sound like it's terribly relevant.
Okay. Your dad had like the same clothes he would wear all the time, the same style. When I'm saying style, I don't mean something that's
He
stylish.
had different pairs of those clothes.
Exactly. He had this jeans and white t-shirt.
It was his go-to. I mean, waking up, sleeping, he was in jeans, maybe shorts sometimes, but mainly just jeans and a white tee.
Okay. And so when you saw him on, and not saying he's dirty, but he didn't have a washer and dryer at his house.
No.
Okay. And so he had, on the 16th, when you were at the tree farm, he was wearing his, before he changed into the boots, the flip-flops, jeans, white t-shirt.
My dad washed his clothes. I mean,
yeah.
there was...
Let's skip forward a little bit here.
Okay.
So you pull in.
Mm-hmm.
You said that your dad had a video recording device.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point he went behind to put another cell phone in the air conditioning unit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's behind the house.
Yeah.
But you're now saying
It's on the side of the house.
You're now saying you were in the car this whole time. You're not out running around the house with your dad.
Objection. Hold on. She has explained that there's two different sections. She's out at sometimes and not at others.
I'm asking about the
Well,
first time.
no, actually, you're not asking. You're saying what you understand the situation to have been. So you can ask what the truth of it is, and then the district attorney is reporting what he thought the testimony was. So why don't you rephrase your question?
I want to break it down a little bit further. You're saying there were two times your dad went up to the house that evening, right?
Correct.
The first time, you didn't get out of the vehicle.
No.
So I'm only talking about the first time.
Okay.
The first time, you said you saw your dad with a recording device, and that you also saw your dad put a cell phone into the air conditioning unit.
Correct.
During this time, you are still in the vehicle.
Yes.
It's dark outside.
But light enough where you can still see.
You said it was the middle of the night.
It is. That doesn't mean... I have 20/20 vision, so I can see.
Oh, okay. So you then explain explain to me your mom's house from where you were parked. You were parked in the bar lot?
Yes.
And were you sitting in the front seat?
Yes.
And you were in the van?
No.
You were in the Audi?
Yes.
So you're sitting in the front seat of the Audi. Which way are you facing?
We are backed up. So me sitting in the car, I am facing the tail of the car. I'm looking at the house. When Dad left the car, I was looking to see where he was going, what he was doing.
So you're facing the house. What wall of the house are you facing?
Have you seen a picture of the house?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so I am on the bar side. I am near the back of the house. I'm on, if you're looking at it from the field. I don't think you're listening.
She started talking to Zach for a second there, so she was like, I don't think you're listening. So again, where is this happening?
So I'm just a little confused because you're saying you're on the bar side, and the door with the window is on the complete opposite side of the house.
Correct. That does not mean that I did not see him turn that corner, and when he came back to tell me what he had saw.
Okay, so again, I only want to
Yeah,
know
and
what...
I am. I'm telling you.
Just a moment. Please listen to the whole question and then answer, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. I only want to know what you saw, not what... We can get into what he told you later. This is only what you saw.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't see that door. You could not see that window from where you were parked.
Correct.
So then when he comes back, you said you get in the car and you kind of pull out, but you don't completely leave, right?
What?
So you said there were 2 times that he went to the house. And in your direct testimony, you said he got back in the car and then went to drive away, but then stopped and got out again, and that was when you came out of the vehicle, right?
Again, that mischaracterizes the testimony. She indicated he came back, he got her. Then there's a third incident where he leaves the car where they partially leave. So when she is retrieved from the car.
How many times did you get out of the car?
I got out twice.
How many times did your dad get out of the car?
3 times. Twice, because he did not get out of the car the second time when he came to get me. When we were still parked at the bar, he did not come and he came and got me. He didn't sit in the car, drive away.
So he didn't enter the car?
No, not fully. So he only got out twice, and I only got out twice.
So the second time then, well, you got out 2 times?
Do I need to re-explain?
No. Please, you can answer a question without a question.
I'm confused.
Okay, well, let's do this.
I'm confused too.
I'll just ask a different question.
Beautiful.
What was the second time, well, the first time you got out of the car then?
It was to go up to the house, to the window that you're talking about, where I can see through the crack of the shades. And that's when he told me to go like this with my shirt. So then the breath marks didn't get on the window.
And then you went...
I just want to pause that a second. So this building is like connected to this other building. So I don't know which unit. I think this right here is Sadie's unit. This is another unit, right? I believe. This is another house. So he would have had to park like here. And I don't know if you can even get through there. It doesn't look like it. So, plus you'd have to go through the bushes, as we said. So the next time he comes here and goes through this drive-through that is shared through for both of these units, I believe. And you can only get to her house from here, I guess. Her front window is, no wait, but it's over here. I'm so confused by this because her testimony just doesn't make sense, right? I don't know. You guys, tell me what you think in the comments below, please.
Went back to the car?
And then we did. We both, at that point, had gone back to the car. And we were pulling away. And then we got to, it depends on which way you're going, but the second entry to our driveway, it was the bigger open end to our driveway. And he stops, gets out, and I get out, and I'm like, what are you doing? And I see him taking pictures of his license, of Mr. Gutierrez's license plate, taking his registration. Somewhere in the time I didn't see him, but he turned the corner, got the phone, rang the doorbell, and came back to the car, and then we left.
So you didn't see him go to the air conditioning unit?
I did not see him go to the air conditioning unit, correct, but I did see him bring back the phone.
Did you see him go to the air conditioning unit that first time?
Yes.
So, did your mom ever talk to you about what she observed that evening?
Yes.
I mean, she's my mother. There are things to be discussed about that I don't know how to answer your question.
Well,
There are things to be discussed about that I don't know how to answer your question. What does she need to discuss with her mother about that night? Because Sadie could have put thoughts and opinions into OA's mind and potentially fed her information that now she's remembering incorrectly, or she's just lying because she wants to please her mother. She's still got to live with her mother.
actually, the question wasn't about the content. It was, did your mother ever discuss the matter
A
with
bit.
you?
Okay. And when did she have that conversation with you? Was it
While
close?
ago.
It was close to that time.
Yeah.
And she told you that she thought it was your dad.
No. 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 I knew.
Well, I'm saying, what did she say? I'm not asking what
I already
you
knew
thought.
everything that my mom knew. She wasn't telling me anything that I didn't know already.
Okay. And do you remember telling her that you actually weren't there?
I do remember telling her that. I did.
And that you just knew what had happened because of a video you watched and from what your dad told you?
Yes. In the beginning of all of this, I did not come out.
I didn't have a question.
She shuts her down because she keeps talking. Yeah. So, okay, let's move on to. There's going to be some arguments that are made here regarding some testimony of OA. So let's skip to that.
Email, mine, it appears the communication to you was at 11:31 a.m. I think
Well, just so it's clear, it did not come directly to me. The clerk got it. Did you get it as a forward, or was that sent directly?
we did.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, mine is headed your name. That's the only reason I indicated it was provided by you. The message, as the court is aware, is that Court TV showed a clip where the defendant used his two fingers and placed them over his lips as his daughter was testifying to suggest to not say anything.
Like
we
this.
are aware now. Court TV has played this clip multiple times. They have even slowed it down to be sure that their viewing audience was able to clearly see what happened, the gesture. So we have a copy of what they have played, but there are commentators who are speaking over it, so we cannot tell what the specific question is that it's in relation to, which I feel would be important to the court to know context. It certainly would be important to the state. We have asked Court TV, who have indicated that if the court orders Court TV to provide an original copy that does not have the commentator's voiceover, that they would provide that pursuant to the court ordering that in this courtroom today, and then all the parties would be able to see that clip and know specifically when the defendant makes the gesture, which clearly has occurred because we've seen video of it, what the context is. We know his daughter was testifying. We don't know what the question was or where she was in her answer. I am asking the court to briefly take a look at what we have. I'm asking the court for an order to Court TV so that we may finish our investigation of this, and if we have any additional information we think is relevant, we'll bring it to the court. The court will remember I expressed a concern earlier that I wanted the court to be as diligent as it felt appropriate to try to make sure that this minor child was not in a position where she was being influenced, and so I asked the court to also at this point impose an order that recognizes what has already been detected in the Court TV film.
Well, you're dating yourself.
This guy is such a tool. So he wants. My dog, because I'm talking, he thinks it's time for food. All right, so he's saying that Zachariah is trying to intimidate the witness or whatever, but we'll hear from Nicole's side, obviously. But so now he wants like an order put in that like you can't talk to them. I don't know.
Because it's not filmed.
Did I say, yeah? Oh.
Yes. But anyway, is there a response?
Thank you. I have watched the clip. Obviously, what we don't see in the clip is the other side because they're not filming Olivia. I will note that there were times that I did observe that when the state was asking their question, while asking, Mr. Anderson's daughter would look over at him and would mouth something just mouth something. I can't say what it is. I can't say when that happened. I did not personally observe Mr. Anderson make these gestures. I've watched it now on here, but so I can't say if it was in response to that or not. But I will say that that was occurring, and it could be that that was a response to her mouthing while the state was asking a question. So that would be the only thing I have to add to that. I obviously can't speak any further.
So the minor is in the courtroom. I don't know if the court feels it's appropriate to have her here as we discuss this, but I should have brought that up earlier.
Just have noticed that.
Yeah. We do have the clip, and we would like at least to show the court what has been broadcast by Court TV now multiple times, so at least the court has that available in its knowledge.
Well, how difficult is it for Court TV? Okay, and I would say I've been requested to order it, and to
So they order it.
This allegation. Counsels have represented to us that they have received this allegation. I have not seen this allegation, so I don't know.
when you say this allegation, you're talking about Ms. Beecham?
I'm talking about the one that has been forwarded by the.
Okay, so let me go back just a smidge here. We want to hear from Birdsall, Attorney Birdsall.
Defense was made aware of that. Attorney Birdsall will speak on.
Yeah, Judge. So apparently, excuse me, this has been brought to our attention too. Obviously, we can't see everything that's going on, but that Ms. Beecham is apparently a certified in ASL, American Sign Language, and Olivia knows the language. And the observers that reported to us said that she was signing to her. I don't know what about. One thing that was mentioned was calm down. What else was signed to her? I don't know. You know, and I have no idea if Court TV would have picked any of that up. They certainly wouldn't have picked it up on Olivia's end, but I don't know if they picked any up on Sadie's end. So maybe if we're looking at some of this footage, we could look at that too.
I'm sorry, I did not hear.
They only have that clip.
Oh, it's up there.
So I want to report to the court what I know about this, just in terms of reaction. So Sadie Beecham indicates she is not a certified American Sign Language interpreter or.
But she knows it.
Of that sort. And most importantly,
Fluidly,
the minor child indicates she does not know that language. So she is not somebody who has that in her ability to understand.
But she knows several phrases and words.
Examine either or both if you want.
Outside the presence of the jury.
Indeed.
Yeah. And Ms. Beecham also denies that she did any of that. So.
All right, let's start one thing at a time. Can you run this?
Yes.
The defense isn't done though. Just wait.
Is that a rerun? Or
Yeah. So because
there's only one incident.
Well, that's the one that they were playing on Court TV that we were made aware of. I don't know if there are others, but that's the one. And then I would play it with sound, but it's pundits talking about what's happening. It's not the.
And pundits made him look like a monster, saying that he was trying to influence his daughter and all this. And, you know, everybody spun this, so it made him look horrible. When, if you actually, like, dig deep and find out what happened, it's not that bad.
Have they mentioned my tie?
They were more focused on what
The
was
Marquette tie?
happening.
No, all right.
They were focused on.
The judge asks if Court TV mentions his tie, the pundits on Court TV.
On the efforts of the defendant.
I understand.
Judge.
All right. Well, let's let that sit for the time being. You are, if you wish, you may examine.
I'm just rewinding it again because it went by so fast. There we go. Okay, here. See if I can pause it on there. It's too fast. But as you can see, he was trying to shush her, probably because she kept talking. So let's move on.
Will know each other and think that she is an interpreter, or conversant with that language.
Right, but at least as the attorneys reported it to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I was told that the allegation, and it wasn't shared with me, it was a family member until now, but that it was, the allegation was that specifically this person reported that they had seen Sadie, the mother, who is a certified American Sign Language interpreter, interpreting or flashing signs to the minor on the stand, who also knows sign language. This is what was reported. What? And one example was calm down, but it was said in the plural when it was said to me. So for someone to say, for someone to take the leap and say, this was American Sign Language that was done over there, I assume it's a person with some competency in that before they would make such an allegation. But I don't know that. I'm just suggesting that is my, is it a person who has competency in this language so they know what these signs are?
Now, if I would join in your.
He's trying to argue that whoever saw Sadie making these gestures must have ASL, like they must also be an expert in ASL, or else he thinks that it should be thrown out, like these allegations that Sadie was signing, because only someone who is an expert in ASL would be able to recognize sign language, obviously.
Your assumption, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying, to me, if they know Ms. Beecham and have spent time with her over the years,
Let's get Ms. Beecham on the stand.
And are familiar.
I'm sorry, can I ask one other thing? You, of course, excluded this witness, so whoever is the individual who made this allegation, I'd ask they be excluded as well.
That makes sense.
Okay. So
That was the person just texting.
Yeah. There are two leaving.
he wasn't texting me, so just relax.
Thanks.
So from July 2011 to December 2013, did you work at the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Mental Health organization as an employment specialist?
No.
It was called the Threshold Incorporated in West Bend.
I think you're looking at possibly a resume or something, and you are kind of mixing up the places. So.
Okay. Did you attend UW Milwaukee?
I did.
Did you get a bachelor's of education?
Special education, yes.
Just listen to the attitude in her question. Like when he's asking questions, I really feel like she's got some major sass, and she does not want to answer these questions.
And in Deaf Studies and Interpreting certification?
I got a minor in Deaf Studies, and in order to be certified nationally, you need to take what's called a national interpreter certification, and I did not take that.
But you know American Sign Language?
I do.
Okay. And you're fluent in it?
Fairly fluent, yes.
Okay. And you taught your daughter as a young child, and as she grew up, how to do it, right?
Up until about Olivia was about 2, she knew animals, her numbers, and her letters.
So the answer is yes. You did teach her.
I did.
Yep.
And in fact, on your LinkedIn page, you list languages where they have a category for languages, and one of them is ASL, American Sign Language, right?
Correct.
So when Mr. Gravely represented to the court that you said you didn't know it, that was just wrong.
I didn't represent that to the court. I said she wasn't a certified language. I said that the child involved here, the minor, does not know the language. I never said that.
So they're arguing now over semantics because he said that she's not certified in it and because she didn't take the tests or whatever, but she knows it. She's fluent in it. So whether she has the certification in it or not doesn't really matter because she knows it.
There were some representations made which did not amount to what is being questioned now. But I'm not going to break the stride on this. But if necessary, we'll check what was said.
Okay. And so we've established you know it. You've taught your daughter.
I've taught her the basics, very basics.
All right. And you also volunteer at the Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing?
No.
So, and is that accurate that you've never volunteered for them?
No, that's not accurate. I used to volunteer for them when I was in school.
Okay. And how long did you volunteer for them?
While I was in school, so I don't know, a couple of years.
Okay. While you were volunteering for them, did that involve doing translations and interpretations for people?
So in my internship, I did have to do interpreting. Again, I can interpret, but I am not nationally nor am I certified interpreter. But do I understand the language? Yes.
Okay. And so, obviously, you've heard this discussion. So I'll ask you, while your daughter Olivia was on the stand, you had a sight line to her, right? You could see her clearly?
I was trying actually to not look at her, and I was keeping my eyes focused over at
That was not
the
the question
defense.
that was asked.
So, no, I was not directly looking at her. Did I have a sight line? Is that what you asked?
That was my question.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So you could see her, she could see you, right?
I can't speak for her if she could see me, but I could see her.
Okay. And so so just the real obvious question, were you signing her instructions about what to say or anything else?
No. My hands were below the pews.
Okay. Were you communicating with her in any other way without your hands, either facial expressions or whatever?
There was a moment where she got a little sassy up here, and my initial mom response was to go, shh, shh, shh. So if I did that, that would have been the only thing that I can recall I did.
Okay. And so to your recollection, your hands were below the the level of the benches the whole time she was up here?
Correct.
Okay. Would you say that's true as far as you know for the other members of the family that were sitting around you?
I can say that the other members of the family are in direct line with me, and so if they saw my hands move, they would be the ones to see it.
Okay. Are there other members of the family that are ASL knowledgeable?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, no in-laws, no cousins, no anybody here?
On Zachariah's side?
No, on your side.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So, can you tell us, and I realize this is going to be hard to make a record of, Judge, but can you demonstrate how it is that you would use ASL to sign the words calm down?
You probably just go, calm down.
So you wouldn't use your hands?
Did you see my hands?
I can barely see you because of the...
Exactly, because that's what I did over there if I did anything. It's below. You can't sign calm down up here. That's impossible. And if I did, everybody would know what I was doing. You don't sign up here. You sign low.
Okay, so you sign low.
Like at your level.
But she still could have been like low and doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you don't sign up here. Those pews are pretty high.
Okay. So you did that then?
I'm saying they're low. So if you're like this, you can't see below those pews. So anything that she would be able to see from here to there, I can't see anybody's hands in any of those pews over there. So if I'm using sign language, if I'm using ASL, I have to use my hands.
Okay. When I just asked you to do it, though,
I did it, right?
You're below.
Correct, because that's the sign.
Mouth the words calm down, or like something like that. Do you do that simultaneously?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Occasionally.
She's got an attitude.
Because that helps them, because they can read lips too?
Some people can, yes.
Okay. And so did you do that in this case?
I don't remember. If I did, again, as a mom, if she's getting sassy, I might have said, calm down.
So just for the record, you made kind of a side head mom scolding look, for lack of a better term. But
I think I made that to you. I honestly, you know.
And so, but you could have mouthed those words to her?
As a mom? Possibly.
Okay.
Let's skip forward a little bit here and have Gravely question her, or did I go too far? Oops.
Maybe a few. She's older now, but it wasn't something that I specifically taught her, like, calm down.
Nothing else.
Redirect.
That was all, Judge. I think we're done.
Oh, we're done? Okay.
No questions. All right, so irritating when they move around.
I was asking you about a moment on the May 19th
Sorry.
interview where you asked for a moment to speak to your mom. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And when that happened, was it just you and her in the room
Pause.
for a while?
So we're going to resume back with OA on the stand. I don't feel so bad because Mr. Birdsall also called her by her first name. So we're going to review this, or watch this last bit of OA's testimony for a few minutes, and then that will be the end of this episode. And then the next episode, we will do all Sadie. So you just got a little piece of her attitude on the stand now regarding the ASL. At this point in time, Sadie had already testified. I was going in chronological order with all of the witnesses except for Sadie because I was saving her for her own episode. So we will have, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the only people that were really out of order, I think, were Rebecca Jekyll and OA, because they both testified after Sadie. So Sadie would have testified before this moment, but I had to do it out of order to give you Sadie full and in her full wonder.
I want to say, like, not for a little while, but, like, a couple of seconds, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe a minute.
And did you ask your mom for some advice?
I did.
Okay. And what was your mom's advice to you?
To absolutely tell
Okay.
what I had asked her.
Okay. And so when you came, so at that point,
I have to to unmute myself. They are talking right now about the interview with police, because when Sadie went to law enforcement and did her interview after reporting Rosalio missing, remember she went home and got the or went wherever, got the kids because she was worried about them, and then so she says, thinking that Zach was going to do something to them, which, come on now. And then, so she went to law enforcement and she brought Owe with her. Owe was separately interviewed in a room, and there were multiple times where Owe left the room and said, I need to go talk to my mom or ask my mom, when she was questioned with things. So her questioning with law enforcement, whatever her statement was, is not necessarily reliable because she was going back and forth asking Sadie for information. So keep that in mind as we listen to this testimony here.
Point did law enforcement come back in the room?
They told me to go back into the room, and then they kind of left me there for a little bit, and then came back in and talked to me.
Okay. And when they came back and talked to you, and during this interview that we're talking about, you're not, your mom's not present, right? While this particular interview is going on.
No.
Okay. So when you came back, what was the information then that you wanted to then let the police know after you got back in the room?
I did tell the detective about the unregistered gun in California.
That who had an unregistered gun in California?
My dad.
Okay.
And then I also had talked about my dad growing and selling
Growing and selling what?
marijuana.
And that was at the residence?
Correct.
Now, you were asked a question previously on a cross-examination where you said that you had told your mom at first that you weren't there at her house on April 24th, the night before your birthday. You remember?
I was not.
Okay. I'm sorry, what? Do you remember telling her that you weren't there? You didn't, in other words, that you didn't do the peeking in the window personally?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And so I just wanted to ask you why you originally did not tell her that you were there. Why did you not want to tell her right away that you had been actually present?
I don't think that we can go into character. Is that? I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer this question without his character being involved in it.
Well, actually, that's what his lawyer's job is, to object if she feels that the answer would get into that area. Sometimes character evidence does come in during a case, and it happened earlier on. I'm not sure if it was while you were here or not, but I made a special instruction to the jury that the evidence is not received for the purpose of showing that the defendant has a character trait or character, and for that reason is likely to have committed. And by the way, some of those laws have been ruled. I will instruct them now.
I'm skipping
that
through
they're
the
not
judge's
necessary in
spiel here.
He's a bad.
To ask that that be struck. Is
She
it?
said she was groomed
Sure, it's
in the window. Right?
Here.
Not,
Sorry,
do you
went too far.
Should I repeat the question or do you remember?
You can repeat the question.
So my question was, why did you decide not to tell your mom right away that you had been present on April 24th and peeked in the window?
So growing up, I definitely groomed. So it's.
I guess I'm going to ask that that be struck. Is it?
Who told her she was groomed? Where did she get that word? Sadie, maybe?
You said she was groomed?
Sure, it's a almost a legal
Double
conclusion.
redirect
Okay, I will do so, Judge. Thank you.
You can go ahead and
or
answer.
request.
I was basically controlled to do the things he was asking of me or instructed me to do. So I didn't have that freedom, if that's what you're asking. I still thought I wasn't allowed to talk to detectives or cops or any of that sort. So
Okay, so now I'm asking about so this is a different question now, okay? So the topic now is that you were asked on cross-examination, did you discuss with your mom a bit the what had happened when in terms of your dad looking in the windows and people looking in the windows when she and Rosalio were at the house on April 24th, okay? So you said, I did discuss it with my mom a little bit, and then you said, I told her I wasn't there. So at first you told her you weren't there. You didn't look in the window yourself, okay? And so my question was, why, this is about your mom, why did you choose not to tell your mom that you were there and peeked in the window at first?
because I was still under my dad's mentality.
I have no further questions.
Request?
Yeah, thank you. The state asked you on redirect about different times you talked to law enforcement again. There were times in this case, though, where you not only talked to law enforcement, but the district attorney, correct?
Yeah.
And you've had meetings at the office to go over your testimony several times.
Not like that. I think it's the same way that the DA meets with their clients. I think there's not, we didn't discuss, I think we're discussing something.
No, I asked you, I'm sorry, the question was whether you met with the district attorney, you, not other people.
Yes.
Whether you met with the district attorney several times to discuss your testimony.
Not about my testimony, about the general.
Several times.
I cannot give you a number.
When you were at those meetings, you didn't talk about your testimony at all.
What do you mean by that?
You didn't talk about what you were going to say or what questions were going to be asked. None of that was touched.
I mean, to me, I think those are pretty fair questions to ask if you're a teenager.
So they were asked then?
I mean, yeah, if you're a teenager and you're being put on the stand, what are you going to ask?
What the attorney is asking.
Yes. My answer is
you
yes.
You don't have to justify what happened. In fact,
She's so snotty when her answer is back to the defense, isn't she? I mean, she sounds to me like a real snotty teenager. But she seems like, she almost seems like she's got her answers fed to her from Sadie, I think. It seems an adult was feeding her things like you were groomed.
I'm going to tell the jury, actually, that it is quite common. In fact, it's expected that attorneys will meet with witnesses as much as possible before the trial for a large variety of reasons. Oftentimes, it reduces the number of breaks that the jury has to take. So that the lawyers are acquainted with what can be expected. It, over the years, sometimes develops a bad name of coaching, which is suggestive that witnesses are told to say things that are not accurate. That is not permitted. But it is normal for the district attorney to meet with the witness or witnesses and the defense.
Coaching might not be permitted, but it most definitely happens, I assure you.
Attorney as well. Okay, any question about that? Okay, go ahead.
In meeting with, basically what I want to get is, you met with a lot of people many times.
Correct.
You talked on redirect about the unregistered gun in California, but you never saw that firearm, correct?
Zach actually is anti-gun, so for this to be, for her to say that she saw a gun, she testified to that on her direct examination. But then she wasn't able to describe it, so I don't know.
In what circumstance?
The unregistered gun was in California, right?
At one point, yes.
So you're saying then the gun wasn't always in California?
No.
What kind of gun was it?
Do you know?
I'm not aware of guns like that. I don't handle guns like that.
You said guns like that. What do you mean?
Meaning, I don't know. Meaning, I'm not familiar with guns like that, but I can tell you there was one.
What color was it?
Black.
Was it long, short? Can you describe with your hands?
It was short. It wasn't. It was probably a pistol of some sort. I'm not sure.
Okay, where did you see it?
It was at the Mac 1 house.
So you say that this unregistered gun is in California to law enforcement. Up until today, did you ever say
Doesn't Zach look confused? Where is she getting this from?
anything about this gun being in Wisconsin?
When I talked about this gun, there were other traumatic events going on in my life, so this isn't...
You don't have to defend your answer.
I'm trying not to defend it. It's what happened. It's legitimately what happened. There were other things going on, and this isn't something that's related even to this situation.
But if you
It's
listen,
not.
don't take this as a scolding. I'm saying listen carefully to the question and just try to answer just the question. And if there's more to be gone into, the lawyers will usually cover it.
I was threatened with that gun, for your information.
Judge, I'm going to ask that be struck. That wasn't my.
No.
Repeat your question.
It will come as no surprise to you that you're going to go into the library for a moment.
Time for the jury to leave. They come back and argue.
As to having threatened her with firearms. Am I right about that?
That's accurate. So maybe a curative instruction or something simple.
Is everybody okay with that?
A curative instruction that would say,
I would just tell the jury.
The testimony about the gun is irrelevant and you should disregard it. And
well, it's not irrelevant in the one aspect, which is it was something she was concerned enough about that she asked for her mom's permission to talk about it. But what she just described in terms of circumstances with the gun is something that the state believes is irrelevant.
That the state believes
is irrelevant.
Okay.
Then I'm going to ask. Sorry, Judge.
That's right.
I guess let me hear what you're going to propose first. Because I don't want to say something that's good. Yeah.
My inclination is to tell the jury that we've gone to further depth in this subject, and that the statement that there was a threat made involving the firearm is not relevant to this case. There are no further details about it that would be relevant to this case, so that they should disregard it entirely.
I agree.
But those who agree are going to be bound forever to this agreement. So it's not going to be an issue that's going to pop up at some later time. Walk it over. That is to be disregarded, and that's in no way suggesting the child has not testified truthfully, only that any threatening behavior does not involve the defendant.
That's not true.
Yeah,
the
that's not true?
The threatening behavior is alleged to be from the defendant.
not according to the testimony.
That's not what I.
It's not that was not the testimony.
What was the testimony?
The testimony was that she was threatened. She didn't say who. She didn't say anything. There's no factual basis for that whatsoever.
That she was threatened with that firearm.
With this
She
firearm.
said she was threatened with that firearm, and then I excused the jury.
Right. Okay.
And
So
I did not, after that, hear any reference to the defendant having been associated with a threat.
okay.
And I interpreted what you said to me to confirm that. And then I thought, well, he's the DA. He'd know. But, of course, you weren't the DA of wherever the threat allegedly took place, which is, quote, Wisconsin. But,
Okay. Well, so the current state of the record is she says, I've been threatened with this firearm, but it doesn't say who threatened her.
correct.
Is
So I intend
that
to.
your recollection? I took it as that she had said he threatened, but I may be wrong.
I don't recall
Okay.
hearing that.
You're definitely wrong.
Okay, here's counsel.
I'm wrong?
No.
We are wrong. Okay.
You're never
I'm
wrong.
not used to being
No.
told that.
No, I would never, ever suggest that. But I think the way you phrased it was accurate to sort of summarize it for the jury and then say disregard it, and it's irrelevant to this case.
Okay, I'm going to try it again now. And this is if you agree to it. If you don't agree
That's
with it,
pretty much the gist of
Then
their
we'll have to address-
argument. Where do they come back here? Are we done for the day?
No way. That the contempt has to actually have been witnessed by the judge, the defendant and the child. And, well, I couldn't hear her to begin with. The hearing is terrible in here. So I asked her to send me a message, which frequently is what we do. And I provided copies to you. Comments?
So clearly within 3 hours of the court, in my opinion, giving a definitive order to the parties that they were not to communicate with a specific witness. The court now sees a second incident where not only where essentially the same conduct has happened, witnessed by a neutral party, and I ask the court to at this point take remedial action. I think the court should consider all variety of actions that the court feels appropriate. But this is a direct violation of what I believe to have been a court order, and I don't know how the court could have been more clear, and I don't know how the disobeying of your order could be more clear. And this is a court of law. It's a jury trial. It is a very difficult, impressionable witness who, even in the face of a court order, had this behavior that they faced again. So I ask the court to impose a sanction that the court feels is appropriate and to take remedial steps to prevent this sort of blatant violation of court orders. Of course, this has nothing to do with the attorneys. That there's only one responsible party in this room in this situation, and certainly I intend to impeach with this or think about how this could be utilized in the trial, but that will require a little extra thought. But at this point, I ask the court to, a simple warning has not been enough. So I ask the court to think about what should be next year.
So Mr. Gravely's prosecutorial side is clearly coming out here, and he's seeing a lot more in this than I think is there. So first of all, I'm just reading from the document that was given to me that he was, the clerk says that he was facing the daughter's direction. Well, we don't know if the daughter saw anything, number one, and gave her a scowling look, and was mumbling. Well, we don't know if he was mumbling to himself, and we don't know any of that. We don't know if that was an attempt to communicate. So Mr. Gravely's attempt to connect dots it's kind of futile because they're not connectable. So and so I don't think I have no idea what kind of remedial measures could possibly be talking about, but this is an emotionally charged situation for everybody in the family on both sides, and especially for Mr. Anderson. And his daughter is up there testifying and obviously having an emotional time with it. I think that's uncontested. So we don't really know, what she heard or what he meant or if he was talking to himself or anything. So I think that the court's admonition from before is more than sufficient, and we can move on. That's our.
The starting point is I don't know the truth of it. I know that it is a report from the clerk that of what she perceived, and I did not see anything occur. And before I would take any remedial action, I would have to know the true facts. Under our law, I can, if I looked at it as a contempt of the court, I can punish only for contempts committed in my presence. There was a more expansive definition formerly, but the law was changed about, 30 or 40 years ago. And I think it's fairly clear now that the contempt has to actually have been witnessed by the judge. I can't do that, and I didn't witness it, so it's going to have to be heard. And the three forms of contempt are punitive sanction, and since I didn't see the incident, I cannot impose that. Even if I could have a hearing and be convinced of the accuracy of what is reported, a remedial sanction, which would basically be telling him not to do it again. Even though I don't know if he did it or not, and or refer it to you for a decision as to whether it's a.
Oh, did it cut off there? It cut off in the middle of the judge's speaking. Oh man. Well, that's it. I'll put it back on here since the screen went black. So as you can see, it's kind of difficult for OA's testimony to be very believable, let's say. There's a lot of questions that it leaves in my mind, so I'm sure it leaves some questions for you guys too. Let me know what those questions are, because yeah, it doesn't make sense, her testimony in this. Anyways, I thank you so much for watching. I hope that you join me next time as we go through Sadie's testimony. And I hope to see you then. Thanks again. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to you soon. Bye. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime. Let me try that again when it's not, echoing. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimereportchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.